joined by Todd Rosenbluth, Director of ETF Research for S&P Capital IQ. The US ETF and ETN industry now has $1.5 trillion in assets. Todd is here to tell us where investors have been focusing assets in the first 4 months of the year and what's ahead. Todd, we've been seeing a return on equity products.
Yeah, that's the case. We've seen investors really pay more attention towards U.S. equity products, both ETFs and ETNs. But what's interesting is that what the themes that are resonating well with investors are both dividend yielding ETFs, low volatility ETFs, and some of the more defensive sector strategies in the U.S., such as consumer staples, such as healthcare in particular. So while investors have returned to ETFs, they are taking a more defensive slant than they have in prior years.
Which styles have experienced the most outflows?
Yeah, so we've seen it in the U.S. in some of the more cyclical sectors. So financial services in particular, consumer discretionary, industrials are some of the sectors that have lost ground. They've actually had outflows this year, as well as what we saw in April was emerging market equity ETFs really move out of favor. Investors seem to be taking on less risk as they're investing overseas, paying more attention to developed markets within the equity side of the
With fixed income, are investors taking on risks still to find yield?
Well, we have seen high-yield bond ETFs really gather assets again this year, something that they did in 2012. But that said, investors are focused more on the shorter-term side of the ledger. So short-term bond funds, floating-rate bond funds have gained much more inflows in 2013 than we saw in 2012.
Okay. Do you think there's still room for growth?
We do. As you mentioned, $1.5 trillion in assets. We've seen 10% growth in just first 4 months alone. And we think investors are going to continue to resonate with the ETF strategy. The low cost, the diversification, the transparency, particularly in fixed income, and as we move into other non-equity markets to get diversification, low cost structure, all these things are going to resonate well for both individual investors and advisors, we think, in 2013 and beyond.
Thanks, Todd. Todd publishes thematic content on ETFs and compares products within the same styles weekly. His thought leadership can be found at MarketScope Advisor. To gain access, contact wealth@spcapitaliq.com. Thank you.